My name is Mike Bruno. I'm the director for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office Patrol and Enforcement. On Thursday, November 9th, between 6 and 7 a.m., Linnell Boyer, a 20-year veteran of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, was at his residence when he began having an argument with his spouse. Linnell begins to get loud, so his wife, in response, attempted to put her left hand over his mouth so that he wouldn't wake the children, which were sleeping in the house. In response to her putting her hand over his mouth, he bit her twice, one at the base of her pinky finger and again on her wrist. So officers were called later in the day, and Linnell and the victim were both interviewed by our Integrity Unit and Special Investigations. And after those interviews, Linnell was arrested for domestic battery, which is a first-degree misdemeanor. We all know that police officers are trained to protect this community. We're also trained in de-escalation techniques. And it's sad in a situation like this where we fail to protect the community as far as the individual officer's position and what he did. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office stepped up, arrested him, and he'll be held accountable administratively as well as criminally for those charges. Last month was the Domestic Violence Awareness Campaign for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, and we do that every year for the families in this community. It's unacceptable for someone to perpetrate domestic violence, and it's unacceptable that someone has to live or be forced to live in that kind of environment. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Ed, do you know how to spell Linnell's first name?
It'll be in the packet.
And is this the first time JSO has been called to the house for a domestic situation?
I don't know the call history. I don't know the call history there, so we can get that information for you.
Can you talk about what's going to happen as far as his job goes administratively and criminally?
Well, the criminal case will be handled through the state attorney's office. Obviously, our investigators will follow up with them for any information that they need. That will run its course, and whatever sanctions there are will be addressed through the state attorney's office. And then administratively, that information from the current criminal side will be passed down to the administrative investigation, and it'll follow from there for any sanctions.
Does Linnell have a prior record prior to this?
In the packet is also going to be his concise history for any complaints. So I don't know if there was a specific question that you had related to that.
What is his status for the force right now? Is he on leave, in absence, or is he still an officer? What is? He's,
based on the civil service rules and regulations, he's being reassigned to teleserve, which is our in-house report writing. So he's being reassigned there until case disposition.
He still received a paycheck, though?
Yes, sir.
What was his job up until yesterday?
Prior to that, he was a patrol officer, patrolling the streets within the city.
Okay.
But to your point, and to further address that, the civil service rules and regulations really are the due process for the administrative proceedings and the employee's rights. So, so that's why he's being reassigned to that, is while we work through the process there.
Was the wife severely injured in this, or was this a minor injury?
It's minor injury.
How long has he been an officer for?
Approximately 20 years.
Anything else?
Was 911 called, or did she end up going to seek medical help? And
there was a little bit of a time gap between the incident and some conversations that she had with family members who encouraged her to report it. And thankfully, she took that sage advice and reported it to the sheriff's office so that we could address it otherwise. And that goes back to my statement before. There's no reason for anyone to be forced to live in that kind of environment or those kinds of things. I can't speak to their daily lives, but certainly she sought counsel from someone that she trusted, and they gave her good advice, and she reported it to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, and it resulted in an arrest.
And I'm sorry, you said 20 years an officer approximately?
Yes. I believe the start date was 9/2 of 97.
And what time was this yesterday? It was yesterday, right?
The initial incident happened around between 6 and 7 a.m. And we got the call around 5:30 p.m. So there's a little bit of a lag time in that.
Okay.
And for the record, how many JSO officer arrests this year?
This will be the 10th arrest this year. Well, let me back up. That is the 10th JSO employee, not necessarily all officers, but the 10th employee for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office that was arrested.
Is that a concern for you, 10 arrests on the force in some fashion?
Well, you know, one arrest is too many because that goes back to what I talked about as far as the additional training that we have, whether it's de-escalation, the commitment that we have to the community. So one arrest is too many, but with that being said, it's reassuring that when there is an issue and it's brought to our attention, it's addressed appropriately. And if that's through an arrest, then, you know, then that's what should happen. The reality of it is no officer wants someone else tarnishing the badge. The officers want to do it right, and they expect others to do it right. And when they do it wrong, they understand, you know, that there's a measure in place to address those.
And I'm sorry, there was an 11-hour lag between the incident and her calling police. Is he confessing to this? Did you get there and there were still visible bite marks? Can you speak to that at all?
We were made aware of the call several hours later. So that's during that time, I believe she had gone to work. She'd sought counsel from, like I said, another family member. So those are the kind of the things that are happening there.
Did he confess at all during when that he had done
I can't speak to the specifics of statements that he made, but we certainly had enough to for probable cause to initiate an arrest.
Just to double check, this incident, the domestic violence happened between 6, 7 a.m.
Yes.
The call was made by the victim at around 5:30 p.m.
Yes.
Then JSO went to the house. Sorry, I can't remember his name. Was he there? Was he arrested at the house?
During the course of the investigation, the integrity officers made contact with him, and they were able to talk with him. And like I said, develop probable cause through the victim interview and his interview.
Okay, but in terms of if he was, I don't want to jump to conclusions that he was arrested at his home. So do you know, was he arrested at his home?
He was arrested after post-interview at the integrity office.